The morning sun cast long shadows across Haven's Rest colony as children ran toward the school building. Their laughter filled the air while parents waved goodbye from doorways. It was Tuesday, and nobody expected this day to change everything. 8-year-old Jake Martinez held his twin brother Luke's hand as they walked to class. Jake carried a small toy spaceship in his free hand, making whooshing sounds as he flew it through the air. Luke giggled and tried to grab it, but Jake pulled it away with a grin. "Boys, stay together," their mother called from behind them. Maria Martinez watched her sons with a smile, remembering when she was their age on Earth. Haven's Rest was supposed to be safe. That's why families came here to start new lives. 12-year-old Amy Foster walked alone, her backpack heavy with books. She loved school and wanted to become a scientist like her father. Amy looked up at the sky and noticed something strange. A dark spot moved between the clouds, but it didn't look like any ship she knew. 14-year-old Kevin Brooks saw it too. He stopped walking and squinted at the sky. "That's not right," he said to his friend. The shape was getting bigger, and it was coming down fast. At the colony security office, Dan Cooper sat drinking his morning coffee. The security chief was reading reports when his screen started flashing red. Warning signals filled the room with loud beeps. Dan jumped up and looked at his monitors. 3 large ships were dropping from orbit, heading straight for the colony. "This is Security Chief Cooper to all units," he spoke into his radio. "We have unknown ships approaching. This is not a drill." Helen Wright, the settlement coordinator, heard the message in her office. She ran to her window and saw the ships in the sky. They were huge and shaped like insects, with long metal legs hanging down. She had never seen anything like them before. The ships landed around the school with loud crashes that shook the ground. Dust clouds rose into the air as strange creatures came out. They stood on 6 legs and had hard shells like giant bugs. Their eyes were black and cold, showing no feeling at all. Children screamed and ran in different directions. Teachers tried to gather them together, but there were too many aliens. The creatures moved fast, grabbing children with metal claws that came out of their arms. Jake Martinez lost his toy spaceship when one of the aliens picked him up. "Luke!" he screamed, reaching for his brother. Luke tried to run to Jake, but another alien caught him too. The boys cried and fought, but the creatures were too strong. Amy Foster hid behind a tree and watched in horror. The aliens worked like machines, taking children and putting them into the ships. She counted them. There were at least 30 of the bug-like creatures. They didn't hurt the children, but they didn't care about their crying either. Kevin Brooks tried to help younger kids escape, but an alien grabbed him from behind. He kicked and punched, but it was like hitting a wall. The creature's shell was too hard, and its grip was too tight. Dan Cooper and his security team arrived with their weapons, but they were too late. The aliens had taken most of the children and were loading them into the ships. Dan fired his weapon at the nearest creature, but the energy beam just bounced off its shell. "We need bigger guns," shouted one of his men. "We don't have bigger guns," Dan replied, feeling helpless. Helen Wright ran to the school, but parents were already gathering outside, crying and shouting. Mothers called their children's names while fathers tried to think of ways to fight the aliens. But the creatures were already closing their ships. The leader of the aliens was bigger than the others. It had marks on its shell that looked important. This creature, called Hive Commander Zakth by his own kind, looked at the humans with his black eyes. He didn't understand why the adults were making so much noise. To him, children were just things to study and use. "These specimens will provide valuable data," Zakth said to his soldiers in their clicking language. "Human young adapt quickly. They will be useful for our research." The alien ship started to rise from the ground. Inside, 47 human children sat in metal cages, scared and confused. Jake and Luke Martinez held each other and cried. Amy Foster tried to stay calm and remember everything she saw. Kevin Brooks looked for ways to escape, but the cages were too strong. As the ships flew higher, the children could see their parents getting smaller below. Some parents ran after the ships, but they couldn't fly. Dan Cooper was already on his radio, trying to call for help from other worlds. "This is Haven's Rest colony to any ship that can hear us," he said into his communicator. Unknown aliens have attacked our settlement. They have taken our children. We need help immediately. Helen, Wright stood with the crying parents and watched the ships disappear into space. She felt sick and angry at the same time. These creatures had come to their peaceful world and stolen the most precious things they had. The aliens didn't know what they had done. They thought they had simply taken some specimens for study. They didn't understand that human children were not just things. They were loved beyond measure, and their families would do anything to get them back. In space, the alien ships headed toward their home world. The children inside were scared, but not broken. They whispered to each other, making plans and staying strong. They didn't know that help was coming, but they knew their parents loved them. Back on Haven's Rest, Dan Cooper kept sending messages into space. Please, anyone who can hear this, they took our children. We need help. His voice was full of pain, but also something else, something dangerous, something that would soon wake up across all of human space. The aliens had made a terrible mistake. They had taken human children, not knowing they had just started a war with the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The message from Haven's Rest reached Earth 12 hours after the attack. It traveled through space stations and communication relays until it arrived at Solar Defense Command on the Moon. Admiral Lisa Kane was drinking her evening tea when the emergency alert came through her personal communicator. Admiral Kane, we have a Priority 1 distress call from the Haven's Rest colony, said Lieutenant Sam Parker, her communications officer. His voice was shaking. Lisa put down her tea and walked quickly to the command center. The main screen showed the message from Dan Cooper, playing his desperate words over and over. They took our children. Unknown aliens have attacked our settlement. They have taken our children. How many children? Lisa asked, her voice cold and steady. 47, Admiral. Ages 6 to 16. Lisa Kane had been a soldier for 30 years. She had fought pirates, smugglers, and alien raiders. But nothing had ever made her feel the way she felt right now. Someone had taken human children. That changed everything. Send this message to every human ship, station, and colony in the galaxy, she ordered. Priority Alpha. Someone took our kids. Within 1 hour, the news was everywhere. On Mars, factory workers stopped their machines and stared at their screens. On the mining stations near Jupiter, tough men and women began to cry. On the trade ships flying between worlds, captains changed course toward Earth without being asked. Captain Marcus Stone was commanding the battleship UHS Vengeance near Saturn when he got the message. His crew gathered around him as he read the report out loud. When he finished, the ship was completely quiet. Sir, what are our orders? Asked his second in command, Commander Beth Taylor. Marcus looked at his crew. These were hard people who had seen war and death. But now they all looked like angry parents, even the ones who had no children of their own. We go to Earth, Marcus said. We get ready to bring those kids home. Major Katie Rodriguez was training new soldiers at the military base on Europa when her commanding officer called her into his office. General Frank Miller was an old man who had fought in many wars, but his hands were shaking as he handed her the report. Katie, I need you to put together a team, he said. The best soldiers we have. People who can do impossible things. Katie read the message and felt her heart stop. She had a young daughter back on Earth. The thought of someone taking her made Katie's vision turn red with anger. How many people do you want on this team, she asked. As many as it takes, the general replied. Money is no problem. Ships are no problem. Weapons are no problem. Bring those children home. Dr. Paul Harrison was studying alien cultures at the research station near Pluto when the emergency call came. The xenobiologist knew more about alien species than almost anyone else. When they told him about the bug-like creatures that took the children, he knew exactly what they were dealing with. Zephyrians, he said to his assistant. They're called the Zephyrian Collective. They think like machines, not like people. They probably took the children to study them. Study them? His assistant asked. What does that mean? Paul's face went dark. It means they see human children as things to experiment on. They don't understand that children have families who love them. Across human space, something was happening that had never happened before. Humans who fought each other over trade and territory suddenly worked together. Political enemies shook hands and offered their ships. Rich people gave money. Poor people volunteered to fight. On Earth, President Nancy Davis called an emergency meeting with all the leaders of human worlds. They met by video link, faces serious and angry. "We need to talk about what we're going to do," the president said. "There's nothing to talk about," replied Governor Tom Wilson of the Mars colonies. "We get our ships, we find these aliens, and we get our kids back." "It's not that simple," said Admiral Kane, joining the meeting from the moon. "We don't know where they went. We don't know how many ships they have. This could be a trap." "I don't care if it's a trap," said Governor Wilson. "They took human children. That means war." Every leader agreed. In one day, humanity went from being scattered across many worlds to being united by one simple fact. Someone had hurt their children. The Zephyrians were traveling through space toward their home world, not knowing what they had started. Hive Commander Zakth looked at the human children in their cages and felt satisfied. The specimens were healthy and would provide good data for their scientists. "Commander," said one of his soldiers, "we are receiving many communication signals from human space. They seem upset about the specimens we took." Zakth made a clicking sound that was like laughter. "Humans are emotional creatures. They will complain, but they will not risk war over a few young ones. It is not logical." The alien commander had studied human behavior, but he didn't understand the most important thing about humans. Logic had nothing to do with it. When someone threatened human children, humans stopped thinking and started hunting. Back on Earth, ships were coming from everywhere. Trade vessels, military ships, exploration craft, and even old cargo haulers. Captains offered their services for free. Crews worked without pay. Everyone wanted to help bring the children home. Captain Stone's battleship Vengeance reached Earth first. Behind him came dozens of other military ships, all ready for war. Major Rodriguez arrived with her team of Special Forces soldiers. Dr. Harrison brought all his research about the Zephyrians. Admiral Kane stood on the command deck of her new flagship, the UHS Retribution, and watched the fleet grow larger. Ships kept arriving every hour. She had never seen anything like it in her long career. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Parker, "we now have over 300 ships ready for combat. More are coming." Lisa nodded. She thought about the 47 children, who were probably scared and alone somewhere in space. Then she thought about their parents back on Haven's Rest, waiting and hoping. "Send a message to all ships," she ordered. "We leave in 24 hours. We're going to find our children and bring them home. And God help anyone who tries to stop us." The human fleet left Earth like an angry storm. 500 ships of all sizes moved together through space, following the trail left by the alien kidnappers. Admiral Lisa Kane stood on the bridge of her flagship Retribution, watching the stars. Ahead, somewhere out there, 47 human children were waiting to be rescued. Captain Marcus Stone led the front group of warships in his battleship Vengeance. His crew worked without rest, checking weapons and preparing for the fight ahead. Marcus had been a soldier for 20 years, but he had never felt anger like this before. "Captain," said Commander Beth Taylor, "we're picking up the alien trail. Dr. Harrison was right about their ship engines. They leave a special mark that we can follow." Marcus nodded. "How far ahead are they?" "Maybe 2 days, sir. But they're heading toward the edge of known space. That's dangerous territory." "I don't care how dangerous it is," Marcus replied. "We keep following them." On the Special Forces ship Reaper, Major Katie Rodriguez trained her team for the rescue mission. She had picked 30 of the best soldiers in human space. These were people who could fight in any condition and never give up. Sergeant Tony Blake was cleaning his weapons when Katie approached him. Tony was a demolitions expert, good at blowing things up, but there was sadness in his eyes that everyone could see. "Tony, you don't have to be on this mission," Katie said quietly. "I know this is personal for you." Tony looked up at her. His own daughter Emma was one of the children taken from Haven's Rest. She was only 7 years old. "Major, my little girl is out there somewhere, probably scared and crying," Tony said. "I'm going to bring her home even if I have to die trying." Katie understood. Half of her team had personal reasons for being here. Corporal Lisa Chen had been a teacher before she became a soldier. The thought of children being hurt made her ready to do anything. Dr. Paul Harrison worked day and night in his research lab on the science ship Discovery. He studied everything he could find about the Zephyrian collective. The more he learned, the more worried he became. Admiral, he called Admiral Kane on the communication system. I have bad news about where the aliens are taking our children. Tell me, Lisa replied. They're going to a place called Hive Nexus. It's their main breeding world, where they conduct experiments on other species. The planet is protected by their strongest military force. Lisa felt her heart sink. How strong? Maybe 1,000 ships, Admiral, and that's just what we know about. The news spread through the fleet quickly. They were heading toward the most dangerous place in alien space, and they were outnumbered badly, but not one human ship turned back. On the trade ship Liberty, Captain Joe Murphy talked to his crew. These were not soldiers, just ordinary people who hauled cargo between worlds. But when they heard about the children, they volunteered to help. Boys, we're probably going to die, Joe told his crew. Our ship has no armor and only small guns, but those kids need us. Captain, said his engineer, a young woman named Sally. My sister has a daughter the same age as some of those kids. We're not turning back. All across the fleet, similar conversations were happening. Miners, traders, explorers, and farmers had all come to help. They changed their civilian ships into weapons of war, mounting guns wherever they could fit them. The Zephyrians were starting to notice the human fleet following them. Hive Commander Zakth received reports from his scouts about the approaching ships. How many vessels? He asked his communications officer. Approximately 500, Commander. They appear to be a mix of military and civilian craft. Zakth was puzzled. This was not logical behavior. The humans were risking their entire fleet for a small group of young specimens. It made no sense to his alien mind. Send a message to Hive Nexus, he ordered. Tell them to prepare defenses. The humans are being irrational, but we will destroy them if necessary. Meanwhile, the human children were still trapped in the alien ship. Jake and Luke Martinez huddled together in their cage, trying to stay brave. Amy Foster had been watching the alien guards and learning their patterns. Kevin Brooks was working on a plan to break out of the cages. We have to be ready, Amy whispered to the other children. When help comes, we need to be ready to run. How do you know help is coming? Asked a younger girl named Sarah. Amy smiled, even though she was scared. Because we're human kids. Our parents never give up on us. They're coming. The fleet moved deeper into dangerous space, following the alien trail. They passed through asteroid fields and around dead stars. Space pirates saw them coming and quickly moved out of the way. Even the pirates knew better than to get between angry humans and their children. Admiral Kane called a meeting of all ship captains by video communication. Hundreds of faces appeared on her screen, all showing the same determination. Captains, we're going into the most dangerous battle in human history, she said. The aliens outnumber us 2-1. Many of us won't come home, but we're going to get those children back. Admiral, said Captain Stone, what's the plan? The plan is simple, Lisa replied. We hit them with everything we have. We don't stop fighting until every child is safe. No retreat, no surrender. Captain agreed. They knew the odds were bad, but they didn't care. Someone had taken human children, and that was unforgivable. As the fleet approached the edge of Zephyrian space, the first alien patrol ships appeared. These were small, fast vessels sent to watch for intruders. The human ships destroyed them, quickly, but now the aliens knew they were coming. This is it, Admiral Kane announced to the entire fleet. We're going into enemy territory. Stay together, watch out for each other, and remember why we're here. We're going to bring our children home. The hunt had begun, and nothing in the galaxy would stop it now. The Hive Nexus system appeared on the human fleet's screens like a fortress of stars. 3 suns burned in the sky while dozens of alien defense stations surrounded the main planet. Admiral Lisa Kane counted over 800 enemy ships waiting for them. Admiral, said Lieutenant Sam Parker, we're detecting the children's location. They're in a research facility on the planet's surface. Lisa stared at the massive alien fleet blocking their path. The humans were outnumbered, outgunned, and far from home. But they had something the aliens didn't understand. They had love for their children that burned brighter than any sun. "All ships, this is Admiral Kane," she broadcast to the fleet. "Our children are down there. We're going to get them back no matter what it costs." On the planet's surface, the 47 human children sat in metal cages inside a cold laboratory. Zephyrian scientists walked around them, taking notes and making measurements. The aliens treated them like objects, not like people with feelings and families. Amy Foster had been counting the guards and timing their movements for 3 days. The 12-year-old girl was smart and brave, even in this terrible place. She whispered to Jake and Luke Martinez, who were in the cage next to hers. "When the fighting starts, we need to be ready," she said quietly. "I think I know how to open these cages." Kevin Brooks, the 14-year-old boy, nodded from his cage across the room. "I've been watching too. There are 6 guards, but they change shifts every 4 hours. If we can time it right, we might have a chance." Little Emma Blake, Sergeant Tony Blake's 7-year-old daughter, was scared but trying to be brave like the older kids. "My daddy will come for me," she whispered. "He promised he would always keep me safe." The other children took comfort in her words. Even in this dark place, they believed their families would find them. In space above the planet, the battle began. The human fleet spread out in attack formation with Captain Marcus Stone's battleship Vengeance leading the charge. The Yusfurian ships moved to intercept them, firing energy weapons that lit up the darkness. "All weapons fire at will," Marcus commanded. His ship's guns opened up, sending deadly beams toward the enemy. Around him, hundreds of human ships did the same. The aliens fought back with their superior numbers and technology. Their ships were faster and had stronger shields. But the humans fought with a fury that surprised them. Trade ships rammed into alien vessels. Mining ships used their drilling equipment as weapons. Every human fought like their own children were at stake. Major Katie Rodriguez and her Special Forces team, Reaper Squad, prepared for the most dangerous mission of their lives. Their small ship, painted black to avoid detection, moved toward the planet while the big battle raged above. "Remember, we have one job," Katie told her team. "Get to that research facility and bring our children home. Everything else is secondary." Sergeant Tony Blake checked his weapons one more time. His hands were steady, but his heart was pounding. Somewhere down there, his little Emma was waiting for him. He would tear apart the entire planet to reach her. "Major," said Corporal Lisa Chen, "the alien defenses are too strong. We're taking heavy fire." Their ship shook as enemy weapons hit it. Warning lights flashed red as systems failed. But Katie kept the ship flying toward the planet's surface. "We're going down whether we want to or not," she said. "Prepare for a hard landing." Above them, the space battle was getting worse. Captain Stone's Vengeance was surrounded by enemy ships taking damage from all sides. His bridge filled with smoke as systems exploded around him. "Captain, we're losing power," reported Commander Beth Taylor. "Shields are down to 20%. Marcus looked at the planet below, thinking about the children trapped there. "Reroute all power to the weapons. We need to clear a path for the rescue team." "Sir, that will leave us defenseless," Beth warned. "I don't care," Marcus replied. "Those kids are more important than this ship." The Vengeance's guns fired with everything they had, destroying 2 alien ships and damaging 3 more. But without shields, the human battleship was helpless. Enemy weapons tore through its hull, causing explosions throughout the ship. "Evacuate the ship," Marcus ordered. "Get to the escape pods." But he stayed at his post, steering the dying battleship toward the largest alien vessel. If he was going to die, he would take as many enemies with him as possible. On the planet's surface, the research facility shook as explosions lit up the sky. The Zephyrian guards looked nervous as they watched the battle through the windows. Amy Foster saw her chance. She had been working on the lock of her cage for hours, using a small piece of metal she had found. The lock clicked open just as the building shook again. "Now!" she whispered to the other children. Amy crawled out of her cage and ran to help the younger kids. Kevin Brooks broke free from his cage and started helping too. Within minutes, Half the children were out of their cages. The alien guards noticed the escape and rushed toward them, but the children were ready. They had planned for this moment. Some hid behind equipment while others threw things at the guards to confuse them. "Emma, come here," Amy called to Tony Blake's daughter. The little girl ran to her, and Amy held her tight. "Your daddy is coming. For you. He's up there fighting right now." Outside, Major Rodriguez's ship crashed into the ground near the research facility. The impact threw everyone around, but they were alive. Katie and her team climbed out of the wreckage, weapons ready. "Move fast," Katie ordered. "The children are in that building." They ran toward the facility while explosions lit up the sky above them. The space battle was getting worse, but the rescue team had made it to the surface. Now they had to reach the children before it was too late. Inside the building, the children fought their own battle against the guards. They were young, but they were human. They refused to give up, just like their parents in the sky above. Major Katie Rodriguez and her team blasted through the research facility doors with explosive charges. Smoke filled the hallways as they moved quickly through the building, following the sounds of children's voices and alien clicking. "This way," shouted Corporal Lisa Chen, pointing toward a large room where lights were flashing. Inside the laboratory, the children had managed to free most of themselves from the cages. Amy Foster was helping the youngest ones hide behind equipment, while Kevin Brooks fought with one of the alien guards using a metal bar he had found. "Get away from them," Sergeant Tony Blake yelled as he burst into the room. He fired his weapon at the Zephyrian guards, his shots perfectly aimed. The aliens fell, one by one, as the rescue team spread out through the room. "Daddy!" screamed little Emma Blake. She ran toward her father with tears streaming down her face. Tony dropped his weapon and caught his daughter in his arms, holding her tight against his chest. "I'm here, baby. Daddy's here. I told you I would come, for you." Katie looked around the room quickly. "Is everyone here? All 47 children?" Amy Foster, still acting like a leader even though she was only 12, counted the other kids. "Yes, we're all here, but some of the younger ones are hurt and scared." "We need to move now," Katie said. "The building won't be safe much longer." Outside, the space battle was reaching its end, but not the way anyone had hoped. Captain Stone's battleship Vengeance had crashed into the largest alien vessel, destroying both ships. The explosion lit up the sky like a new sun. Admiral Lisa Kane watched from her flagship as more human ships were destroyed. They had fought bravely, but the aliens had too many ships. Half of the human fleet was gone, including some of her best, captains and crews. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Parker, "Major Rodriguez reports that she has all the children. They're requesting immediate pickup." Lisa felt relief flood through her body, but it was mixed with sadness for all the people who had died to make this moment possible. "Send every available ship to pick up our people." The rescue ships landed near the facility while Katie's team led the children outside. The kids squinted in the bright sunlight, many of them crying with relief. They had been brave in the dark laboratory, but now they could see that help had really come. Jake and Luke Martinez held each other's hands as they climbed aboard a rescue ship. They had been separated from their parents for days, but they never stopped believing someone would come for them. "Are we going home?" Luke asked one of the soldiers. "Yes, son," the soldier replied. "We're taking you home to your families." But the battle wasn't over yet. Hive Commander Zakth was angry that the humans had rescued their young. He ordered his remaining ships to attack the rescue vessels, even though it went against all military logic. "Destroy those ships," he commanded. "The humans must pay for their interference." Admiral Kane saw the alien ships moving toward the rescue vessels, her heart filled with cold fury. The children were safe, but the aliens still wanted to hurt them. "All ships protect those rescue vessels," she ordered. "No alien ship gets through." The remaining human fleet formed a protective wall around the ships carrying the children. They fought with desperate courage, using their own ships as shields. Many more brave men and women died in those final minutes, but not one alien weapon reached the children. As the human fleet retreated from the system, something unexpected happened. Other alien species who had been watching the battle began sending messages to both sides. They had seen humans fight and die for their children, and it changed how they thought about the human race. "The humans are not just warriors," said one alien diplomat. "They are protectors. This changes everything." The Zephyrian collective found itself alone in the galaxy. Other species stopped trading with them and refused to help them. The attack on human children had shown everyone what the Zephyrians really were: cold creatures who saw all life as things to be used. 3 days later, Hive Commander Zakth received a message from his superiors. The collective was surrendering to the humans. The cost of the war had been too high, and they were losing allies across the galaxy. "This is impossible," Zakth said to his officers. "We had superior numbers and technology." His second-in-command looked at him with tired eyes. "Commander, we never understood what we were fighting. These humans don't fight for territory or resources, they fight for love. How do you defeat that?" Back at Haven's Rest Colony, the children came home to crying parents and celebrating families. The Martinez twins ran into their mother's arms while she sobbed with joy. Amy Foster hugged her father and told him about how she had helped the other children escape. Kevin Brooks was welcomed home by his whole family. Emma Blake sat on her father's shoulders as Tony walked through the colony. He had lost many friends in the battle, but his daughter was safe. That was all that mattered to him. Admiral Kane stood with the other military leaders at a ceremony honoring the fallen. Over 200 ships had been lost, along with thousands of brave people who gave their lives to save the children. "Today we remember the price of innocence," she said to the crowd. "These people died so that 47 children could come home to their families. They died because we believe that children are the most precious thing in the universe." The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Human children were not just protected by their own parents, but by every human everywhere. Any species that threatened them would face the fury of the entire human race. Helen Wright, the settlement coordinator, planted a memorial garden in the center of Haven's Rest. Each tree represented someone who had died in the rescue mission. The children helped plant the trees, understanding that these brave people had given everything for them. Amy Foster, who had grown up a lot during her time in captivity, spoke at the ceremony. "We will never forget the people who saved us," she said, "and we promise to be worthy of their sacrifice." The Zephyrian collective signed a peace treaty that included new laws protecting children of all species across the galaxy. They paid for the damage they had caused and freed all the slaves they had taken from other worlds. But the most important change was in how the galaxy saw humanity. They were no longer seen as just another species trying to expand through space. They were seen as the protectors of the innocent, the ones who would fight impossible battles for those who couldn't fight for themselves. And in the years that followed, when other species faced threats to their own children, they knew who to call for help. The humans would always answer because protecting the young was not just what they did, it was who they were.